The jersey of the Italian national team goalkeeper is not just a piece of fabric. It is a heavy, suffocating armor made of history, pressure, and impossible expectations. When you put it on, you are not just playing a game. You are standing in the shadow of giants, Dino Zoff, Walter Zenga, and of course the greatest of them all, Gianluigi Buffon. For over 2 decades, Buffon was the undisputed king. He was the Wall of Turin, the hero of Berlin, the eternal captain. But as the years ticked by, a silent panic began to creep across Italy. Who could possibly replace him? How do you replace a god? The answer came not from an expensive transfer or a seasoned veteran, but from a 16-year-old kid sitting in a high school classroom. His name was Gianluigi Donnarumma. And long before the world truly understood what he was, Gianluigi Buffon saw the future. He looked at this towering teenager and told the world that he was witnessing a miracle. Buffon said that Donnarumma was the chosen one. He told us that this boy would redefine the position for the next 20 years. He was right. He was absolutely right about everything, but for a very long time, nobody listened. To understand the story of Donnarumma, you have to understand the sheer absurdity of his beginning. It was October 2015. AC Milan, one of the most prestigious football clubs on the planet, was in a state of crisis. The team was struggling, the fans were restless, and the manager, Sinisa Mihajlovic, was desperately looking for a spark. He made a decision that most considered to be pure madness. He benched his experienced goalkeeper and handed the gloves to a boy who was not even old enough to drive a car. A boy who still needed permission from his parents to stay out late. When Donnarumma walked out onto the pitch against Sassuolo, he looked out of place. He was massive, standing at 6'5", but he still had the baby face of a teenager. The crowd held its breath. The media waited for him to crumble, but he did not crumble. He was entirely unfazed. He barked orders at defenders twice his age. He leaped across the goal with terrifying speed. He made saves that defied logic. Almost overnight, the entire football world lost its collective mind. The hype machine went into overdrive. Every newspaper, every pundit, every fan was talking about the boy wonder in Milan. But with that hype came a dangerous, crushing weight. The media did not just call him a good prospect. They called him the new Buffon. They demanded perfection from a kid who was still doing his homework on the team bus. And through it all, Buffon himself watched from afar, nodding in approval. He knew the burden of that title better than anyone. He publicly embraced Donnarumma, offering him guidance, calling him his little brother, and firmly stating that Italy's goal was in safe hands for generations to come. Just look at Gemini-generated image 3IDB6K 3IDB6K 3IDB PNG, the contrast between the master and the apprentice. You can see the seasoned wisdom in the veteran and the raw, heavy potential in the young prodigy. They were forever linked by destiny, but that destiny was about to turn incredibly dark. Football is a beautiful game, but it is also a ruthless business. And as Donnarumma grew from a boy into a young man, the business side of the sport crashed into his life like a freight train. Enter Mino Raiola. The late super agent was known for getting the absolute best deals for his clients, often at the expense of club loyalty. When Donnarumma's contract negotiations with AC Milan stalled, the fairy tale turned into a nightmare. The fans who once adored him turned on him with a viciousness that is hard to comprehend. They saw him not as their homegrown hero, but as a greedy mercenary. They threw fake money at him during matches. They unfurled banners insulting his family. They nicknamed him Dollarumma. Imagine being 18 years old, standing on a football pitch, and having thousands of the people who used to cheer your name screaming that they hate you. Most players would have shattered into a million pieces. Their careers would have nosedived. But Donnarumma stayed standing. He made mistakes, yes. He looked rattled at times, of course, but he never stopped making those impossible saves. Eventually, the relationship with Milan broke beyond repair. In the summer of 2021, Donnarumma packed his bags and moved to Paris Saint-Germain on a free transfer. The move was supposed to be his ascension to the absolute top of club football. PSG was building a super team. They had Neymar, they had Mbappé, they were about to get Lionel Messi. Donnarumma was supposed to be the final piece of the puzzle, the fortress at the back that would finally deliver the Champions League to Paris. But Paris is a complicated place. The pressure there is different, it is unforgiving. And from the moment he arrived, things did not go to plan. Instead of being handed the keys to the kingdom, he found himself in a bizarre rotation system with Keylor Navas, a legendary goalkeeper in his own right. The lack of rhythm, the constant scrutiny, and the chaotic defending of the PSG backline started to expose the cracks in Donnarumma's game. The modern game of football had changed. Suddenly, goalkeepers were expected to be deep-lying playmakers. They were expected to be as comfortable with the ball at their feet as a midfielder. This was never Donnarumma's strength. He is a traditional shot stopper, a giant who commands his box and reacts with lightning speed. But when asked to play intricate passes under high pressure, he looked uncomfortable. He looked clumsy. Then came the moment that almost defined his career for all the wrong reasons. The Champions League round of 16 against Real Madrid. The Santiago Bernabéu, PSG were in control, they were cruising, and then a moment of hesitation. Donnarumma dawdled on the ball, Karim Benzema pressed him aggressively. A panicked clearance, a turnover, a goal. The floodgates opened. PSG collapsed in spectacular fashion and the media found their scapegoat. The backlash was biblical. The French press tore him to shreds. Pundits across Europe declared that he was wildly overrated. They said he was a dinosaur in a modern game. They laughed at the idea that he was ever the heir to Buffon. They said he was just a big guy with good reflexes but not a true elite goalkeeper. The noise was deafening. But amidst all the criticism, amidst all the mocking, one voice remained remarkably calm. Gianluigi Buffon. Whenever a microphone was put in front of him, Buffon refused to join the mob. He doubled down. He told the critics that they had absolutely no idea what they were talking about. He explained the biomechanics of goalkeeping. He pointed out that a man of Donnarumma's sheer size and frame should not be able to dive down to the bottom corners as fast as he does. He called him a freak of nature. Buffon patiently reminded everyone that goalkeepers peak in their late 20s and 30s, not in their early 20s. He said, "Let him make his mistakes. He is still learning. When the time comes, he will show you who he really is." And Buffon was right, because people had completely forgotten what happened just a few months prior to that Madrid disaster. They forgot about the summer of 2021. They forgot about the European Championship. Italy entered Euro 2020 as a team reborn under Roberto Mancini. But they were not the heavy favorites. They did not have the superstar attacking talent of France or the overwhelming depth of England. What they had was a collective spirit, a ferocious defense, and an absolute monster standing between the posts. Throughout that tournament, Donnarumma was a brick wall. He was flawless. As Italy navigated their way through the knockout stages, the pressure reached boiling point. It came down to penalty shootouts, first against Spain in the semi-final, then against England in the final in front of a hostile, roaring crowd at Wembley Stadium. This is the ultimate test of a goalkeeper's psychology. You are entirely alone. It is you against the striker and you against your own mind. In those moments, Donnarumma did not look like a player struggling with his confidence. He looked like a cold, calculating machine. He stood tall on his line, staring down some of the best penalty takers in the world. He saved Jadon Sancho's penalty. And then, with the entire tournament on the line, he faced Bukayo Saka. He dove to his left. He batted the ball away with iron wrists. Italy were the champions of Europe. But it was not just the save that broke the internet, it was his reaction, or rather his lack of it. While his teammates sprinted towards him, crying, screaming, losing their minds in pure ecstasy, Donnarumma simply stood up and walked away with a blank expression. He later claimed he didn't realize that save had won them the match. But in a way, that cold, emotionless walk perfectly encapsulated who he is. He is insulated from the chaos. He has to be. When you have been scrutinized since you were 16 years old, when you have had millions of people pray for your downfall, you learn to detach yourself. You learn to exist in a bubble. He was named the player of the tournament, a goalkeeper, winning the ultimate individual prize in an international competition. It was a historic achievement, a crowning moment that cemented his name in the history books forever. Yet bizarrely, club football fans have very short memories. One mistake in the Champions League and suddenly his Euro 2020 heroics were dismissed as a fluke. This is the hypocrisy of modern football that Buffon was trying to point out. We demand our prodigies to be perfectly polished, finished products from the day they debut. We afford them no grace, no room for the painful process of growth. When Donnarumma makes a stunning reflex save, we say, well, he should save that, he's massive. When he makes an error with his feet, we say he's a fraud. The goalposts are constantly moving. But look at the reality of the situation today. Look at where Donnarumma stands. He is now the captain of the Italian national team. He wears the armband that Buffon once wore. He leads the next generation of Italian players. At Paris Saint-Germain, despite the constant managerial changes and the tactical shifts, he remains their number one. He has pulled off saves in League One and the Champions League that quite literally defy the laws of physics. Saves that only 2 or 3 humans on planet Earth could even attempt, let alone execute. He is no longer the wide-eyed 16-year-old kid in Milan. He is a battle-hardened veteran, and he is only in his mid-20s. He has played more high-pressure matches than most goalkeepers play in their entire careers. He has experienced the absolute pinnacle of international glory, and he has walked through the fire of intense, malicious public scrutiny. His distribution has improved. His command of the box has matured. Is he perfect with his feet? No. Will he ever be Ederson or Manuel Neuer in possession? Probably not. But he was never meant to be. He was meant to be Gianluigi Donnarumma, a towering, imposing force of nature who wins you games on his own by doing the one thing a goalkeeper is ultimately paid to do, keeping the ball out of the net. When Gianluigi Buffon said that Donnarumma was the chosen one, he was not predicting a career without mistakes. He was not saying that the kid would never drop a cross or misplace a pass. Buffon, a man who tasted the bitter pill of defeat in 3 Champions League finals, knows better than anyone that football is a game of suffering. What Buffon saw was the mental titanium. He saw a kid who could make a horrifying mistake, get screamed at by 80,000 people,